Hey everyone, Snowflarky's Emos here today with a new Master Duel deck profile. This is my Stone Statue of the Aztecs Defense OTK deck. This is built off of the Master Duel version of the Cauldron of the Old Man Mystic Mine at Home burn deck that you've been seeing, and of course one that I put a profile up of after the YCS. And this is just utilizing the ability of the Ojama lockdown to create a new kind of funny OTK. I wouldn't say this is better than that, but it is fun, and enough so that I thought I'd share it. Let's get into it. First, we're starting with our monsters. Stone Statue of the Aztecs is the big monster that we're playing with our win condition. This is a monster that we can set, and it has an effect that doubles any battle damage your opponent takes when they attack this monster. And it's not an activated effect, which is pretty nice. It's just if your opponent takes battle damage from this monster, it's doubled. Now the way this deck's going to work is we're going to take this stone statue and we're going to trick these Ojama tokens that we are putting onto our opponent's field, which have 0 attack, into attacking the stone statue of Aztecs. I say trick, but we're actually going to force them. And every time they ram into it, your opponent's going to take 4,000 damage. So 2 attacks on this thing will end a duel if they have 8,000 life points. If you use Upstart Goblin and raise their life points a bit, you're going to need to do more than that, which can be done. And but that's the main combo, and that's it for the monsters. Next, into our spells. Our spells is just basically to move through our deck as quickly as possible and get to the cards needed for the combo, which is Stone Statue and Battle Mania. This, of course, being that the Ojamas are already on the field. So we're playing 3 copies of Upstart Goblin. We draw a card, then our opponent gains 1,000 life points. Pretty cool. We can play 3 at this at Master Duel, unlike the TCG, so it's nice to have. In addition, we can also play 3 card of Demise, draw until we have 3 cards in our hand. Also, for the rest of this turn, our opponent takes no damage. And during the end phase, we send everything in our hand to the graveyard. Usually not a big deal because we got all spell and traps. We can set it. And then, of course, we can only activate 1 card of Demise per turn. We cannot special summon. All things that we don't care about. This card mostly is just draw 2 to 3 cards. And that is good enough. Another card that we can play at 3 in Master Duel that is limited in the TCG, so that's nice. And we're playing 3 copies of Into the Void. If you have 3 or more cards in your hand, draw a card. And if you do, during the end phase of this turn, discard your entire hand. So just another card that replaces itself. Very important. Pot of Duality. Excavate the top 3 cards of our deck. Add 1 of them to our hand. Also, we shuffle the rest back into the deck. And then, of course, we can only activate 1 Pot of Duality per turn, and we can't special summon the turn we activate this. Doesn't matter. We're not going to be special summoning on our turn. So, nothing to worry about there. Pot of Duality is a very important piece because in your opening hand, which you do need to be going first with this deck, we don't have the Mystic Mine to fall back on, so it is pretty much a go first or lose deck unless your opponent doesn't make any plays and sets a monster. But Pot of Duality is very important because in our opening, we need to end our opening turn with an Ojama card in either Rivalry of the Warlords or Gozen match so that we can lock our opponent out of playing monsters on their field. And Pot of Duality can be used to dig for one of those key pieces. Next, we're playing a 1 Day of Peace. Each player draws a card and neither player takes damage until the opponent's turn. So cycles a card, but very important if you play this card and you have the combo ready to go, you need to wait a turn because your opponent is not going to be able to attack and defeat themselves. So keep that in mind. And last, we're playing 3 Pot of Extravagance. Our extra deck is completely unusable in this, as you'll see by all of the meme vanillas, the non-effect fusions that are in here. So, at the start of the main phase, banish 3 to 6 extra deck cards face down, draw a card for every 3 banished, and of course you cannot draw any cards by card effects for the rest of this turn. So we just banish 6 of these cards and draw 2, which is a plus. Very important, I have a funny fusion extra deck, but if you want to play optimally, make this just a bunch of link monsters so that Nurse Burn, which is still around on Master Duel, I know because even sometimes I still like to play a Nurse Burn game, can definitely punish you for this, whereas if you make it links, they can't punish you. So just something to keep in mind. And that is it for the spell cards. Looking into our traps, we are playing 3 copies of Ojama Trio and 3 copies of Ojama Duo. Ojama Trio summons 3 Ojama tokens, and Duo summons 2 Ojama tokens. Now these Ojama tokens from both cards are beast monsters and light with 0 attack, which is very important because we are going to use these to lock our opponent out of playing the game. They can't be tributed for a tribute summon, and each time one is destroyed, the controller takes 300 damage. So, a trio summons 3, duo summons 2, and we want to get one of these in our opening to flood our opponent's board on their turn. Next, we're playing 3 copies of Battle Mania. This is our card that forces the Ojamas to attack the stone statue. So once our stone statue is set, we have Battle Mania, which we can only activate during our opponent's standby phase. All face-up monsters your opponent controls are changed to attack position. That will be the Ojama tokens that we have given them. And also all monsters your opponent currently controls must attack this turn if able. So if they have a way to buff their Ojama tokens, that could be kind of bad. And maybe they can actually just OTK us. But if their Ojama tokens are just sitting on the field, like they do in most cases, they're just going to have 0 attack and ram into stone statue, dealing 4,000 damage each time. And that is essentially how we win the game. So and the rest of the time is just stalling with the Ojama lockdown until we get that. Next, we're playing 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. This is our emergency button. We pay half our life points to negate a summon or a spell or trap card. If they're about to out our lock so they can start playing, we want to have cards that say no, and Solemn Judgment is that card that says no. In addition, we are also playing 3 copies of Dark Bribe, which when our opponent activates a spell or trap card, your opponent draws a card. Also negate the spell or trap activation, and if you do, destroy it. Also, it's just another important card to have, because while it draws your opponent card, it still is probably negating the spell or trap that's going to out your lockdown, and your opponent's going to only have so many outs, so usually Dark Bribe saves you infinitely more in a deck like this than it misses out. If you don't like this card, because we're not playing Mystic Mine, it is maybe viable and more optimal to be playing copies of Fake Trap, which is a trap card that when your trap card or cards would be destroyed, you can destroy that card instead. That way, if your opponent Harpies, Feather Dusters, or tries to MST Rivalry, then you can negate it. However, if they're playing Cosmic Cyclone, then Dark Bribe is better, so which one you pick is up to your discretion. Next, we're playing 3 copies of Rivalry of the Warlords, the better of the 2 floodgates. Each player can only control 1 type of monster. Send all other face-type monsters they control to the graveyard. So, this means that when we give them Ojama tokens and flip Rivalry, they're locked into beast monsters, and there's just not a lot of beast decks, not a lot of beast extra deck monsters they could link the Ojamas into. So most of the time they're just stuck with them, and all they can do is set their other monsters, which is fine. We're going to completely ignore them, and Battle Mania doesn't make those face down monsters go into attack, only the Ojamas, and we are going to utilize that. And of course, last is 3 copies of Gozen Match. Each player can only control 1 attribute of monster. Send all other face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. So this will lock our opponents into light. You know, there's plenty of light decks around, so maybe that doesn't lock them out, and you'll lose that matchup. But there's a lot of matchups you'll win with it. So if you duality have to dig for one, pick Rivalry over Gozen, but Gozen is just a good thing to have. And of course, if you have both, then that's really nice, because deals with a lot of things. And that is it for the main deck. As far as the extra deck goes, like I said, it doesn't matter too much. You're not summoning anything in here. Links are probably, 15 link monsters are probably the best, just so you don't get cheesed by Nurse Burn. But it's more entertaining and funny to just show off some of your favorite dumb extra deck monsters. So I just picked some of my favorite old Duel Monsters era fusions, so that if anybody wanted to look at my profile, they would see all these cards, and that just makes it very funny. So here we are taking a look at the deck in action. We are just in a replay here. We're going first against this opponent. Pretty important, because if you don't go first, you're mostly going to lose, because we don't have the Mystic Mine to fall back on, unfortunately, and we can't play Fire Prison because we need the attacking in this version. If you're looking for a better version of this deck, play the Cauldron version. But anyway, we're starting off pretty decent hand. We got an upstart, we got a demise. We have the Ojama and Rivalry, so this is important. This is the lockdown we want. So we just need to dig for the combo. We already have one of the pieces, so actually if we draw in to Stone Statue of Aztecs, we can actually win on our next turn. So we're going to start. We're going to play Upstart first to bait out the Ash. Now we get a second Ojama Trio, which is fine. Now we're just going to set everything and play Card of Demise to draw 3 cards. We draw some cards, none of which are the none of which are the stone statue, so we're just going to discard everything. Now Battle Mania in the graveyard kind of gives away that we're doing something. Our opponent draws, and we're going to play Ojama Trio and flip Rivalry of the Warlords. In order to not clog up the spell and trap card zone, I'm just going to burn the other Ojama Trio. Now we're not going to be able to summon 5 Ojamas because the card requires we summon 3, so if we can't summon 3, it won't work at all. But we're just going to resolve 1, and Rivalry will activate, and the other trio will just get sent to the graveyard. And they're going to set a card, clearly locked out of anything they can do. We're going to draw. Pot of Extravagance is a good card to have. We're going to draw 2 off of Extravagance by banishing 6 cards. And 2 rivalries, so we're going to set a rivalry just to keep one zone free, and in case our rivalry gets popped. The only thing we're missing from this field is Solemn to protect our cards from board wiping. Now we draw Stone Statue, though. We set Stone Statue. And of course, now our opponent draws. During the standby phase, we will activate Battle Mania. This will flip the Ojamas into attack position and force them to attack this turn. Now they enter the battle phase. They attack. The first one hits, which does 4,000, and our opponent, realizing what's going to happen when the others attack, and they have to attack, just decides to scoop. And, you know, that is how it works. So that is it for my Stone Statue of the Aztecs Defense OTK deck profile. Again, just, this Ojama Rivalry combo is just so good for stalling that you can do lots of cheesy stuff with it. You know, we can probably make like a Drill Barnacle attack directly deck, and just a lot of things that can be done with it. Of course, these decks are, not great. They require you to go first, basically have nothing to do if you go second. And, so I wouldn't say anything for consistent leveling, but it's just a fun, wacky thing to hit an opponent with. And I have a soft spot for finding ways to defeat opponents in like unique ways and whatnot. So I enjoy this combo very much. It's very funny to get it to work on. And, of course, certainly we'll get your playing spell cards quest done. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you're doing any other wacky combos with Stone Statue of the Aztecs or the Ojama Lockdown. Love to know what you're doing, and of course there might be more profiles in the future that use this engine to do other wacky things. So with that, thanks for checking out the video. I'll catch you all in the next one.